Have you ever imagined being in a band with your best friend, only to reach a point where you can't stand them anymore? Well, that's exactly what happened with the Beatles. The Beatles were the very embodiment of harmony, until they weren't.
And I never thought it affected my music until years later. I certainly didn't mean it to be.
The friendship between John Lennon and Paul McCartney was the heart of the band, but it was also its greatest source of tension. Their creative differences became evident during the White Album sessions. Lennon accused McCartney of micromanaging, while McCartney felt Lennon was too distracted by his relationship with Yoko Ono. The fissures deepened during the making of Let It Be. Lennon grew increasingly resentful of McCartney's leadership, and the studio atmosphere became tense. In one famous exchange captured on film, Lennon sarcastically told McCartney, "I'll play whatever you want me to play, or I won't play at all." The feud carried into their solo work after the breakup of the band. Lennon took a direct jab at McCartney on his song, How Do You Sleep?
How do you sleep at night?
Which McCartney returned in subtle jabs, such as, "Dear friend."
Dear friend, throw the wine.
For years, public spats continued between the two men. Both spoke about regrets later on in their careers. McCartney told interviewers that, "We were like a married couple. We fought, but I loved him deeply." Similarly, Lennon would say, "Paul is my family." Van Halen's original lineup created unforgettable music. But the tension between frontman David Lee Roth and guitarist Eddie Van Halen was impossible to ignore. Their clash of egos defined the band's trajectory.
Yeah, I'm a guitar hero. You know?
Roth's penchant for florid theatricality overshadowed Eddie's technical brilliance, and the perfectionist guitarist didn't like it one bit. During sessions for the 1984 album, Roth mocked Eddie's use of synthesizers as a betrayal of rock. Eddie fired back that Roth was more focused on his image than his music. That venom carried over into their live performances, once finding Eddie turning off Roth's microphone mid-song. A shouting match ensued backstage. By 1985, their feud boiled over, and Roth was gone. The public digs would continue long after. Roth once called Eddie's music soulless, while Eddie said Roth's return to the band in 2007 was strictly business. But despite their differences, their legacy as rock pioneers remains intact. Axl Rose and Slash were the faces of Guns N' Roses, but their relationship was anything but harmonious. Since the very beginning of their partnership, their personalities clashed. Axl's meticulous approach to music often frustrated Slash, who preferred a more spontaneous style. During the Use Your Illusion tour, tensions boiled over. Axl's habit of showing up late angered fans, and Slash. In one infamous incident in Montreal, Axl walked off stage after just a few songs, sparking a riot that caused extensive damage. Slash later called it the most unprofessional thing I've ever witnessed. Things got worse when Slash decided to work with Michael Jackson, which Axl perceived as a betrayal. For years, Axl called Slash a cancer, and the two refused to speak to each other. The 2016 reunion tour came as a surprise to many, but according to insiders, the relationship is strictly professional. Their story is a perfect example of how hard it is to balance creativity and ego in rock. Fleetwood Mac's Rumors is a masterwork, but the making of it was chaotic.
And I'm not going to quit, and neither are you. And we were done.
Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were no longer in a romantic relationship, but they were still working together, just barely.
Part of what interested me was that this was going to be a nice sense of closure for all five of us that maybe didn't exist at the time when I left.
Their breakup inspired some of the band's best songs, including Go Your Own Way and Dreams. But the recording process was brutal. Nicks once threw a glass of wine at Buckingham during a heated argument, and Buckingham reportedly sabotaged Nicks's vocal takes out of spite.
For me in particular, I mean, I was not the one doing the leaving, she left me, but there was never really any chance to get anything like closure because that takes perhaps some distance.
In 2018, Buckingham was kicked out of the band, apparently on Nicks's behalf. Despite their drama, their music stands as a testament to the power of channeling personal pain into art. The incredibly fecund creative partnership that defines rock history between Roger Waters and David Gilmour in Pink Floyd was nonetheless remarkably tense. In particular, Waters' hectoring personality clashed regularly with Gilmour's quieter, more collaborative approach.
We were working hard, we were getting on with this stuff, and we were coming up with tunes that we really liked.
During the sessions for The Wall, Waters insisted on complete control over the album, with Gilmour and the other band members shuffled off to the side. Gilmour retaliated by holding back his best material from the project. This divide grew to the point where Waters even tried to dissolve the band after he left.
The answer to that is because nothing from me is on the website. I am banned by David Gilmour from the website,
filing legal battles against the other members for the Pink Floyd name. One underlying anecdote of their later years tells a great deal about the lingering bitterness. In 2005, their first performance together in decades for a charity reunion, Waters and Gilmour reportedly communicated almost wholly through intermediaries. They were cool yet professional on stage together. But afterwards, Gilmour said that it had been necessary but emotionally exhausting. Even though they reunite occasionally, their interviews are still fraught with digs to prove that the differences are still not ironed out. Yet, their albums, such as Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here, were miracles considering the odds against them. This is one reason the creative partnership of Mick Jagger and Keith Richards has survived through decades.
For a long time, about pop singers, generally, everybody in the public eye has a responsibility.
But not without its own pitfalls. Richards consistently criticized Jagger's ego. He even referred to him as unbearable in his memoir. Things came to a head in the 1980s when Jagger launched a solo career. An incensed Richards said his friend was more interested in being a pop star than a Rolling Stone.
I had quite a few jobs and I was trying to get a band going.
These tensions were exacerbated when Jagger refused to tour with the group for many years, preferring solo endeavors. Years later, Richards softened his judgment. Mick is Mick. I love the guy, but he's a lot to handle. The relationship survived, in large part because of mutual admiration of one another's ability.
No, I mean, he's not a happy person.
The Clash revolutionized punk rock, but the dysfunctional relationship between Joe Strummer and Mick Jones ultimately led to the destruction of the band.
It's not what you feel like, so you've got to have some music what you feel like, otherwise you go balmy, don't you?
Their conflicting visions regarding the direction of the band made for constant tension. He wanted to adhere to the punk ethos of their band, while Jones wanted to explore other genres. The creative tension this produced between them created London Calling and a lot of studio arguments.
If you don't make a record that's different from your last LP, then you're not sort of doing your job, you know, you have to keep moving forward or at least be moving somewhere. So we try to be more simple.
Personal differences only made things worse. The way Strummer saw it was that Jones was too unreliable and too sidetracked by his side projects. In 1983, Strummer sacked Jones from the band, all but ending the golden era of The Clash. Hindsight brought regrets from both men. "We were like brothers who fought too much," said Strummer.
Independence of any other
outside agency is what counts. You know, to any young group, I'd say that independence.
A brief reconciliation before his death in 2002 hinted at the possibility of putting bad blood aside, but by then, the damage was done. Equally, Nirvana's rise was matched by internal tensions, notably between Kurt Cobain and his wife, Courtney Love, and between Cobain and drummer Dave Grohl. The tumultuous relationship between Cobain and Love dominated headlines, and Love frequently clashed with Grohl. She accused him of sidelining her influence in Cobain's life, while Grohl called her out for exacerbating Cobain's struggles. Well after Cobain's death, Love and Grohl continued to feud over Nirvana's legacy.
Because for the longest time, you know, I would try to process and talk about it with friends and family and things like that, and they would help me. But now, like, I feel like I have to help my kids go through it.
Once, Love went so far as to call Grohl a leech in a public rant. Grohl never stoked the flames of conflict any higher than Love did. Through all this turbulence, one thing has remained resistant: Nirvana's music. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant were the creative chemistry that defined Led Zeppelin, but there was friction between them. Often, Page's perfectionism in songwriting ran contrary to the spontaneity of Plant. During the recording of Physical Graffiti, Plant grew frustrated with Page's perfectionism and often argued with him. As time went on after Zeppelin, their differing priorities would come to the fore. Plant wanted to work solo, and Page wanted to continue with his partner. Their reunion efforts in the 1990s were at best half-hearted. "We're not the same people we were in the 70s, Plant said in one interview. Whatever their differences, however, their input into rock history cannot be gainsaid. Few feuds in musical history are as well documented, or as explosive, as the one between Oasis brothers Liam and Noel Gallagher. The sibling rivalry was to become the band's signature drama, fueling media coverage and shaping their tumultuous career. The root of their animosity can be traced to their upbringing in Manchester. While Noel was the responsible, ambitious older brother, Liam was the brash, defiant one. These traits didn't mellow with fame. In fact, they worsened. Their first album, Definitely Maybe, was recorded in a hail of argument and fighting. Liam would make up the words as he sang them, enraging Noel, who was the band's chief songwriter. In 1994, in one infamous incident, Liam used a tambourine as a threatening weapon, which resulted in Noel walking out on the recording session. But the breaking point came during a 2009 gig in Paris. Just hours before stage time, Liam reportedly smashed Noel's guitar, leading to an awful row. Noel said later it was the final straw. "I couldn't live or work with Liam for one more minute," and the band crumbled. The brothers have kept the feud alive even in their post-Oasis careers. From Liam labeling Noel a potato on Twitter to Noel calling Liam's solo work karaoke, the insults have become as much a part of their legacy as their music. Thus, despite their conflicts and mutual destruction, rock stars produced music that endures forever. What are your thoughts? Did these conflicts help them succeed? Or did they only make matters worse? Please leave your comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and help keep rock and roll alive.